evening, everybody. Welcome back to PSGL. George Morgan here, your commentator, alongside me, TK, who is going to be rounding off the season with me.
Down the inside,
absolutely impossible season.
This is for the win between these two.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
He needs to get it done now.
Blakey will dive to the inside.
We're robust. We got our elbows out.
Ronar takes the lead.
Because here comes Alfie Butcher.
Can't really complain with that one.
It's not going to be easy. The pressure is on, of course.
Jarno Opmeer is your champion.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am back. I'm also joined with Max Ring for round 5 here in PSGL. We're here covering F4, and it's time, Max, for some Silverstone action. I'm very excited for this one.
Hello everybody, pleasure to be back here, back in what was my normal home for the past few seasons of F4. I will be here for the remainder, of course. A few changes within PSGL, but I'm here in F4 once again, and yeah, thank you for having me here, Ben. It should be a wonderful evening of action here in Silverstone.
Absolutely. Let's quickly, before we go into the lobby, all the drivers are ready and up, but let's have a look quickly at the standings. Max, would you like to take us through the driver standings for F4, please?
Yes, I would love to take us through the standings. It is Dimas currently leading the way on 34 points, only 2 points in front of Carlos Galendo. He is on 32 and has not won a race so far this season, but 2 second places do help his title bid. Then we have Igor Pazeshki, who is in third, a further 4 points back from your championship leader, and he is on 31 points. And then we have Giovanni Kennis on 27 points in fourth, Paul Alfados with 26, just a point behind. The next 3 drivers, actually fourth down to 6th, are all separated by 2 points. And we have Chanakinchi in 6th, Damien Curiel, the reigning champion, in 7th. Sammy Simeone is in 8th, the reserve driver who's only featured in 1 race and won it. That's why he's so high up the order. Then we have Bennett Lakey's in 9th, Daniel Gottschalk in 10th, Jensen Rosen in 11th on 9 points. Same with Thomas Laminen as well. And then we have Jeremy Gallanet on 7th, Alexi Cavero on 6, Alessandro Finn on 5. Then we have Supply Raptor on 4. 2 points each for Lanzoni and Shea, both the Kick Saubers on the same total. And then finally, rounding out your point scorers is Abdullah Bulaki with 1. And that is only coming with a 10th place at Saudi Arabia. But, Ben, we have joined the short qualifying session. Of course, 18 minutes of qualifying action to get us underway. So let's see what the drivers can do around this fantastic racing facility.
Absolutely. Now, if the race is anything like last week in F4, we're in for an absolute thriller. Now, I was on commentary, and there was punctures galore towards the end, and Sammy Simeone ultimately claiming victory and claiming those 16 points for P1. So, as well, another talking point, Jarno Opmeer in F1. That was crazy.
It was a very, very crazy move there from Jarno in PCF1. I mean, it was 100 IQ, well, 110 IQ, should I say?
1,000 IQ.
1,000 IQ. It was just it was a bold choice. He knew it could have either gone really well or really wrong, but I know that is not allowed now. From this point onwards, here in PSGL, PCF4 and F3 and F2, whatever you're watching here this evening, or even if you're watching all of them, we are not allowed to come into the pit lane on the final lap to try that. So for Jarno, it might have worked out. For everybody else, you're going to get penalised if you try it.
Yeah, absolutely. So for any drivers thinking about pulling one of those moves, there will be a penalty coming your way if you do. But Abdullah is on a lap time then in the V-carb, so let's take us through this one. Abdullah now into the first sector, into the loop now, gets a little bit over the sausage curb, so that's going to unsettle his car a little bit. Into the loop now, got to get on the power as soon as you possibly can, then just let the car flow through the next corners onto the Wellington straight, as he's got a little bit of battery left to play with. Damien actually retired. I think he had a disconnect and that retired his car. Thomas Laminen might have had the same as well, but now this is a very, very tricky corner. Abdullah opting for third gear, so let's see if everybody else chooses that gear. I think it is tight between third and fourth. It definitely was in the previous games. Not done that much racing myself this game, so I'm not sure what the strategy is in terms of gears on this one. But Abdullah now heading into Maggots and Beckett. So pretty planted so far, just really that error on the sausage curb to start the lap. But yeah, through Maggots, now into Beckett. What is it going to be in the middle sector? It's a 1:02.202. So now running all the way up on the hanger straight into Stowe corner. Lovely stuff there on the curb, running it out wide, using and maximising all the curb, braking as late as you possibly can into the final chicane, getting as close and running through both curbs to the sausage curbs as you can, and nice flowing again until he start finish straight. And it's a 1:25.7 for Abdullah, who sets the pace here with Alessandro Finn straight in to beating it.
Just gone a 10 faster, has Finn, and then Mango going up now for 25.5, and then Thomas Lang setting a beautiful lap time to get us underway of a 25.3. So the time's coming in thick and fast, and they certainly are tumbling. Pulled out Adolfs now going into third on the 25.5, so just behind Mango by around a 100th of a second. Lanzoni now to 6th. Who else is going to be coming up to the line ever so shortly? I think the next driver to be doing so is going to be Jeremy Gallinay in the Haas. So, of course, so far this season, not really been a standout season for Jeremy Gallinay thus far. Has been battling for titles in the past here in F4, but unfortunately so far this season has not gone his way. But through the final corner now, he's a qualifying master, and he goes onto provisional pole with 25.2, closely followed by Giovanni, who goes into third, and then Alexander Dimas topples Gallinay, and he's on a 25.1. The times are certainly tumbling as this track evolves here, Ben. Yeah,
Sammy Simeone as well into P5. Our race winner last time out, Igor, is also on a lap and is coming around the final corner now. Igor in P3 in the standings. Alexander Dimas, though, needs a good result here today, and he's currently sat on provisional pole. What about Carlos now running to Maggots and Beckett's? He seems to be on a hot lap. Anyone else ahead of him on a lap? There is a Sauber there, but I believe that is Giovanni not on a lap. So Carlos, 1:02.0, so this could be up near the sharp end.
It certainly could be. So for Carlos Galendo, as he now heads through the right-hander of Stowe and down into the Vale chicane. Is this going to be good enough to go to the front of the field, or at least around that point onto that second row? We'll be very happy with that benchmark. Up to the line now comes Carlos. Is it good enough? No, only 7th fastest. It's still very close throughout this field here, Ben. I mean, look at that. If you're someone like Paul, if you improve by 0.2 of a second, you're going from 9th all the way up to around about, we're going up to 4th place. So there's a huge jump. If you find even the smallest amounts of time on your lap, you're still gaining a position.
Yeah, it's a great lap time as well for a banker from Alexander Dimas as well. 1/10 clear of the next best car, which is Jeremy in the Haas. But yeah, everybody coming into the pit lane now, getting themselves ready for their second runs. But have we got an idea on strategy today? What are we saying? 1 stop, 2 stop? I believe it is just a 1 stop.
I think it is just a 1 stop. I think it's a medium hard or a hard medium. I wouldn't be surprised if we see someone try the 2 stop, but you do lose a lot of time in this pit lane. It can be up to an excess of 30 seconds at times. So yeah, it's going to be all about what the drivers prefer, and you can really see how this track is rubbered in here, Ben, because Abdullah, who set the first lap time of the session, is currently slowest of the field. That just shows you're at that disadvantage in qualifying. As the track becomes more and more rubbered in, you start to find that time, get more grip through those tyres, and you'll be able to push further into the corners, be able to brake later, get on the throttle earlier, and that's really bit Abdullah here, because he's down in 13th and he's out before everybody else once again.
He absolutely is, and as you say, it's so close. Whole grid separated by only 6/10, and top 5 a quarter of a second. So yeah, incredible pace so far. Like I said, 1:25.1 for a banker lap is pretty incredible. Let's just say that. But yeah, Abdullah is going to be the next person to start their second lap, and he's going to need to improve. Only 15 drivers here today, but of course it is holiday season right now.
Yeah, it is. That might explain maybe over the next couple of weeks a poor attendance. I know quite a few of the drivers are away for their own respective personal holidays. But let's see what Abdullah can do now. Led us away on the first set of runs now. In the second set we go. And he is going to be the first driver to take us on the tour once again of this Silverstone racing circuit as you head through Abbey, then into the left-hander of Farm Curve, then be late on the brakes into Village, down to third gear, then try slowly bring that power back up, stab the throttle before you slow it all the way back down, a tap of the brakes into the loop as you then head through Aintree, this left-hander. You're really just focusing on the run into the Wellington straight through Aintree as you then get over that first sector split. What's it going to be for Abdullah? He's up by just under 0.2 of a second, so a very big improvement here, and this already will promote him up into that top 10. So out of Luffield we go through Woodcote and down, up, should I say, the national pit straight and into Copse Corner, a very big invalidation hotspot here in qualifying. If he keeps you in track limits, it's nicely done for Abdullah as we now head into Maggots, followed by Beckett's. And then we'll be into Chapel, middle sector split coming up, seeming very nice, very stable, very planted through there from the V-Carb. And look at that, 0.3 up on his previous lap time. This will promote him up into that top 5 potentially if he's able to carry on this rate of improvement. Through Stowe Corner we go now. There's a little bit of traffic of the McLaren of Mango as we now head onto the brakes into the Vale chicane. So for Abdullah, what is his time going to be? Can he break into that top 5? A little switch out of the Vale chicane. Through Club Corner we go now. To the line he goes. Third fastest, a monstrous improvement there. But the question is, Ben, has he gone too soon on these second runs?
Potentially, but of course we've got to remember there is one more lap to go right at the end when track grip is at its highest as well. Jensen Rowson in the chat saying I better be here next week. Well, Jensen, hopefully you're racing as well next week so I can commentate back on you once again. Alessandro Finn is improving by about just over a tenth in that first sector. It's looked pretty nice so far, but everybody else is starting to start their second flying lap of the session.
Yes, they certainly are. I'd like to say Mango in this session is Tias Korsman. He is the driver under the name of Mango in that McLaren. If you're confused and not seen them so far, is Tias Korsman. So for Alessandro Finn, he's going to be the next driver leading us round to finish off the lap times. What we're going to see in that middle sector split, currently on a 25.6 across the second split time, up by 0.2 of a second. This will promote him up into around about 8th place. But we'll see what he can do as he heads through the right-hander of Stowe. Of course, this is where we saw Abdullah have that little bit of a slide on the exit of this chicane, a little bit deep into the Vale chicane though for Finn. That could affect his momentum ever so slightly out the corner. Up to the line he goes, only 8th fastest. Lost a bit of time in that final sector. That was the V-Carb of Igor Brzezinski starting his lap time now. So we've got more drivers coming up to the line. That's a Red Bull, I think, up to the line of no, it's not Alessandro Finn. That could have been Abdullah going again. Aleski has unfortunately invalidated his. That would have been good enough for 8th fastest to displace Alessandro Finn. But more drivers coming up to the line now. And I think the next one is going to be Thomas Lang, who is unfortunately invalidated.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of invalidations so far. Let's cut to Giovanni. He's coming through Stowe now. Half a tenth improvement for him. I think there is an Alpine, is it, that's about to cross the line as well. But riding ball with Giovanni, who clambers over the sausage curb, and that is a lot of time lost. Just completely bottomed the car out, and Giovanni lost about 0.2 there.
Yeah, unfortunate there for Giovanni. That would have been potentially a very nice lap indeed. That could have put him into that top 3, but a big moment for the Mercedes driver. Sammy Simeone, last week's race winner on his debut this season, up to the line, goes second fastest. Lovely lap time from Simeone, splits Dimas and Gallanet. Dimas is up on his lap, so is Gallanet as well. The has to the line, can he displace the man currently on pole? No, it's still just over a tenth behind, and Alexander Dimas is now on his lap, heading in to the Vale chicane. Was up by 100th in that middle sector. Can he find anything in the final, or will he lose time? The man currently on provisional pole, can he extend his grasp? Yes, he can, but only by 1,000th of a second. But Ben, that 1,000th could be dearly crucial come the end of the session.
Yeah, it absolutely could, as time is money especially in tiers like F4. Carlos, of course, not on a lap time. The Mercedes ahead, Giovanni as well. And I believe that is a Williams coming into the pit lane of Thomas Lang. So who else is on a lap? Is anybody else on a lap that we can ride on board with at the moment? No, I don't think so. Jeremy might be again, but I think he's not got enough battery to complete this run. So yeah, all for the final runs now.
Yeah, now everybody looking for those final runs. Of course, unlike F1 24, we do not have the 4 runs. We have the 3 because there'll be no lobby restarts to turn the collisions back on. The collisions are already on in these sessions, but this is now crunch time here, Ben. Of course, we've seen the first 2 runs. I want to know, who is your prediction for pole at this stage of qualifying?
Well, I think Sammy Simeone, to be honest. I think he's going to pull a lap out the bag. He's a 10th off at the moment, which is quite a long way when we're talking about this calibre of drivers. But, you know, he's got a bit of confidence winning the last race. It all kind of fell into place for him with the punctures ahead. But yeah, Sammy Simeone, one last race. I think he might bounce back again with a pole position here.
Yeah, he does have that momentum on his side, but he is putting the fight up against the championship leader of Alexander Dimas, who currently is the only driver to have scored a point in every single race so far this season. We want to keep that streak going, of course, here in round 5. This is where you want to start to put your championship bid together, have a good start to the season, opening half to the season, should I say. So here in round 5 and next week for round 6 in Hungary is where you want to maybe cement yourself as a championship challenger. These are very key points in the championship, but of course you can still fight back in that second half if things go your way. But the drivers now getting ready for the final runs. 3 minutes left on the clock. We should be getting drivers out of the pit lane ever so shortly.
Yes, we should. And just a note as well, there's 2 points between Alexander Dimas and Carlos in the championship. It was Alexander and Igor who were equal on points last round. But yeah, Igor not having quite the race he would have wanted. The 12, I believe it was, last race in Imola. We've got some cars coming out now though. Thomas Lang, I think, is one of them. But yeah, Alexander Dimas was ahead in the standings just because he won the opening round.
Yeah, of course. Dimas after that opening round, a 5th place, then a 4th, and then an 8th. So he's not been able to return to the podium. We've had 3 drivers actually, should I say, that have had multiple podium finishes. That's Galendo, who currently sits 2nd in the standings. Igor Pajewski, who got a podium, won in Saudi Arabia, should I say, then got the podium in Belgium. And then also we have Chan Akinci, who is got 2nd and 3rd to his name over the past 2 rounds in Belgium and Imola. But as we're setting up for these final runs, oh so crucial now, you only get 1 shot at taking pole position now, and you need to get this perfect. So for someone like Giovanni Lanzoni or even Tias Korsman down in 11th and 12th, a lot of pressure is on their shoulders here, isn't it, Ben, to try and get a good qualifying position?
Absolutely. Alexander, we're pretty happy with his laps so far. Obviously provisional pole and leading the championship, but of course he'll still want to improve. 1/10. It's a lot of time in this, but realistically 1/10 of a second, if you think about it, probably less than a blink of an eye. So of course Alexander Dimas will want to improve along with every other driver on this grid, but Thomas Lang is going to be the first one to try and cut that time down from let's have a look at his fastest lap, 1:25.3, and he's begun his lap now, Max.
Yep, so let's see what Thomas Lang can do, the leader of the herd, as we start these final runs of qualifying. Everybody is out on the circuit for the Williams, now heading up into the loop. It seemed a very nice first couple of corners. Need to make sure he don't drop the rear out of here. Nicely done, as he takes a lot of curb through Aintree, and DRS now open down the Wellington straight. 3rd sector split is just coming up. Is he up or down? He's up by just under 1/10 of a second as we head through Brooklyn's late apex corner. Oh, a little bit of a slide. That's going to off-put his run through Luffield, and had to make a few corrections through Luffield as well. We exit out of the corner now through Woodcote and into the Cops corner. Of course, that time loss might have been key to a potential pole position charge from Thomas Lang. Those few errors might have just cost him dearly as he heads now through the right-hander of Maggots, then into the left Beckett's, and then into Chapel, a little bit sideways through there as well. And he is down on his lap time. He's starting to overdrive that car. He's down by just over half a tenth, and he's not really got much to play with in terms of battery or corners left on the circuit. So as we exit out of Stowe, down the hill into the Vale chicane, the last braking zone, the last real place where you can find time on the circuit. Another big slide once more, just doesn't seem to have those tyres in the working window. The checkered flag falls up to the line. It wasn't an improvement. Alessandro Finn to the line. He's invalidated as well. Disaster for the Red Bull. The Ferrari, Valetsky up to the line. He moves up to second place. A brilliant lap from the Ferrari. Paul now up into second. He dislodges Alessi Corvoro as he now moves up into second in the Alpine. Adolphus, very nicely done there. Samione, he did improve, but it was invalidated. That would have been enough for the front row of the grid. Jeremy Gallane's a little bit further back round the lap than the likes of Giovanni Galendo as he's now heading through the final corner as he heads up to the line. Only good enough for 8th place. Unfortunate for the man second in the standings. Carlos Galendo now moves up into second. So brilliant qualifying for Alpine. Tiers Korsman only good enough for 12th. But let's have a look at Jeremy Gallané as Igor Brzezinski now goes to the top of the times. A stonking lap time from the V-Carb out of nowhere. But Dimas is up by a tenth and a half and he breaks into the 1 minute 24 barrier. Hit Igor Brzezinski, you may jump, but Alexander Dimas says, I can jump higher. But Gallané up to the line. Can he get to the front row of the grid? Yes, he can, and only just falls short of Alexander Dimas. A frantic end to qualifying there. Igor Brzezinski thought he had done it, but Gallané and Dimas said no to that one. But it is the Red Bull, your championship leader, who takes pole position out of Silverstone. A wonderful qualifying from him, led all the way through, but only 200ths clear of Jeremy Gallané with a very interesting race ahead of us, Ben.
Absolutely. What an end then to qualifying. Just shows you how much the track evolution can help these drivers, how much more grip and ultimately how much more time you get out of those laps. And yeah, Alexander is helping his championship charge, isn't he? He's leading the championship pole position here today. But Jeremy in the Haas, fantastic effort from him as well for a front row.
Yeah, brilliant effort from the pair of them. Of course, only about 3 seasons ago, these two were fighting for the F4 championship. Unfortunately, their challenges got derailed in the second half of the season. But that's an extra point to Dimas's championship lead. So that's now put him a point over the Alpine of Carlos Galendo. So now the two, well, there's still plenty of drivers still in championship contention, but that does give Dimas the extra point of breathing room, and come the end of the season, that could be very, very dear indeed. But now we wait for the drivers to get ready for the race. Who's your prediction? I asked you your prediction for quali, Ben. Who's your prediction for the race win?
Oh, tough one now, because, I mean, I watched the Silverstone race on Wednesday, and it was very, very hard to overtake. So if Alexander plays it right, then definitely he can hold off whoever is behind him, any attacking car, no matter who it is. But you never know, because if someone gets past him early on, or if an incident occurs, who knows? But I think Alexander will take it. It's an easy option, but I think he will take it.
Yeah, of course. Slipstreaming nowhere near as much of an issue on this year's game, so you can hold your lead from the get-go, but we do have the 5 light signal coming up now. We have 5 red lights in front of the drivers. And we are underway here in Silverstone. It seems a very good start from Alexander Dimas, and Gallané sluggish off the line. And look at that from Brzezinski, nearly being overtaken by both the Alpines. It's pretty wide into turn 1. That's Adolph's going off the road, and he's still side by side with Brzezinski and Cavallaro now going around the outside, down the inside as well. But the outside for the loop, 3 wide still as they come through the loop now, and it is the Alpine who's just streaking clear, and the V-Carb just behind of Igor Brzezinski, slotting in to that slipstream, trying to use their battery as they head down into turn 1. The Ferrari now switching to that right-hand side to swoop around the outside, but the inside for Luffield for Alessi Corvoro, but unfortunately just having to sit behind, and that's actually put him under pressure from Sami Simeone as well, side by side between the Aston Martin and the Ferraris. We head through Woodcut now. The Ferrari just comes out on top, but a dream start from Dimas, maybe not extending that gap as much as he would have wanted, but he's still in the front by around about half a second, so it was a very good launch from the line, and the Red Bull keeps his race lead.
Absolutely, side by side, in between Maggots and Beckett's, and the Mercedes going round the outside of both cars there. That is a lovely, lovely move from Giovanni, but can't quite make the move stick on Thomas Lang there. But all sorts of chaos. Alexander Dimas leads the way on lap 1. He's cleared any threat from behind on this lap. Now it's just a matter if he can use the dirty air behind to his advantage and keep this race lead like we've seen so many times in this game. Giovanni as well still goes side by side with Thomas Lang. There's a lot of argy-bargy action going on here. Abdullah as well in the V-Carb, just battling it out with Giovanni there, but nothing doing for him.
Yeah, Giovanni just having to sit in that ninth place for now, and is coming under all sorts of pressure from Abdullah Bulak, who is just behind him as it currently stands. Damien Curiel getting a move done on Alessandro Finn. Quick tyre update. Everybody on those medium tyres except for that Red Bull of Alessandro Finn. So he's trying the alternate strategies. He's now going side by side with the McLaren of Tiers Corson. There's a little move further up as well. That's Simeone versus Cavoro. Is he going to get the move done in the Aston Martin? No, just having to sit behind for now as we exit out of Luffield for the second time in this race, and Tiers Korsman's able to get past Alessandro Finn. Of course, those medium tyres will be better at this current stage, Ben, but once we get to, I would say, around about lap 7, lap 8, I think Finn could maybe make a resurgence back up through the field at the end of this stint.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the undercut probably is a little bit powerful, but tyre age is also crucial on this game. Jeremy about 6 tenths behind now, Alexander Dimas. Are we going to see a move on the hanger straight from anybody at all? The most likely person probably would be Giovanni, but I think he's just staying in that train for now. Lap 2, not as much squabbling as, of course, lap 1, as Giovanni runs wide there in the Sauber in P12. But I think everyone's surviving as well early on in this race, which is brilliant to see. Everyone's still in this train. Fastest laps being set, of course, on lap 2.
Yeah, of course, this train is going to be constant throughout this race. Be difficult to find a rhythm and just break away from the other, because, of course, there's so many DRS zones as we now head through the loop with Sammy Simeone as he tries now apply the pressure on Alexei Cavoro. Is he going to get the move done? But he's not. He's actually dropping very far back indeed, and Giovanni's he's actually lost the DRS to Thomas Lang in front of him. So I say it would be difficult to extend that gap to the cars behind us. Of course, they're in DRS as much as you, but I think Giovanni has made a mistake somewhere, and Thomas Lang is starting to streak clear. Of course, also here, Ben, engine temperatures are going to play a huge deciding role in this race as well. You get so much more power with keeping your engine cool. So for someone like Dimas, who's got that clean air in front of him, it'll work a treat if he's able to stay there until the end of this race.
Oh, absolutely. Now, you might see drivers pull offline to try cool those temperatures down. Let's try get a good view here on the cinematic camera of any moves potentially being made on the hanger straight, but nothing quite doing. Paul is very, very close to Carlos, but still, this DRS train is going all the way down to the back of the grid, and these drivers just can't make any moves at the moment.
No, they can't. Of course, that DRS being oh so powerful. And of course, Slipstream nowhere near being as effective as it once was. We are starting to see somewhat of a chess match between these drivers, where they're just waiting and waiting and waiting for the driver in front to potentially make a mistake to then go for the moves. But Dimas still leads the race quite nicely. Still has a lot of battery to his name as well. Around about the same as what you can see for Gallinet. Head into Brooklyn. The two Alpines could get into a little bit of a squabble of their own. Of course, Carlos is higher up the order in the standings, fighting with Dimas for that championship lead. Of course, 3 points separate them after qualifying. But the last thing you would want here, Ben, is his teammates to overtake him and potentially just fall further and further back from the Red Bull.
Yeah, I mean, Carlos didn't have the best of exits out of, I believe it was the loop. So Paul just switched on the battery on the Wellington straight, looking to maybe apply a bit of pressure or even get past his teammate there. But yeah, he turned it off when he realised that he couldn't quite make the move stick.
Yeah, we'll see as we exit now on out of Chapel and onto the hanger straight. It does seem that Adolphs is now just falling a little bit further back, so he won't be able to get that move done on his teammate
wide.
Carlos
Jeremy
Galeno.
wide.
It's all that's Jeremy Galeno going very wide indeed. Don't know if he got on the grass, potentially on exit, and then very deep into the Vale chicane as well. So this could be the opportunity for the Alpine to go for a move into the loop potentially. If he's able to get close enough as he tucks into that slipstream, it will be of course flat out all the way into that braking zone. A long old run from the Vale chicane all the way into finish. He's going to go for the move. No, he's just going to sit behind for now. Wasn't brave enough to dart it to the inside. Of course, very early in this race. Don't want to get involved in any unnecessary incidents, but that's the first chink of the armour being found for Galeno against Galeno. Maybe if he puts more pressure into Stowe here, Ben, the Haas might crumble and the Alpine could see a door open for him.
Absolutely. Now he's just got to reset himself. Let's hope that has not knocked his confidence in any way. Of course, Carlos has to worry about his teammate as well, Paul, in behind. But yeah, Carlos will have loved a bit of that. He'll love to see that ahead of him. And Jeremy just needs to settle his head now. Alexander could have an opportunity to pull away if something like that happens again.
Could certainly give Dimas the breathing space he needs to break that 1 second window over Jeremy Galeno. And that would be so costly in a race like this. If the leader's able to break that 1 second window, you can certainly start to see him fly off into the horizon and give him a real big gap over the chasing pack behind. No one really close enough for a move. Everybody about 5 to 6 tenths back from one another. The closest drivers on the circuit are actually the two Alpines. As we now head into the Vale chicane once more. We're about to start lap 6 of 26. The first 5 laps are down. These drivers have been fighting quite nicely. It's been a very clean opening start to this race. For Alessandro Fini, still doing well to keep in there on those hards, keep within that DRS range. I expect within the next few laps, he'll start making his way past the likes of Damien Carrillo and T.S. Korsman to slowly resurge up that field.
Absolutely. Sammy Simeone is well close. Valeschi Cavario in the Ferrari. But yeah, Jeremy Galeno did stow nicely the last lap around, so let's hope he can keep that nice and neat for the rest of the race, and let's hope he doesn't crack under the pressure of Carlos. Very, very wide as well from the V-carb of Igor there. P3 in the standings, would like to probably be a little bit higher up in this race if he possibly can. Podium would be nice for him from this position so far, but still a lot of racing action to go, and of course the pit stops and the tyre age can throw off a lot of people's strategies and their drives as well.
Certainly can. Of course, tyre management is going to be so dear around a circuit like this. A lot of high-speed corners, adding wear to your tyres. And you need to make sure you keep them within a good temperature and also percentage window, especially when you get to your end of your stint. And that dirty air does not do you any favours at all. Your fronts and your rears start to slide in that turbulent air, as you can see there, once again wide from Pajewski heading through Stowe and now into the Vale chicane. This could potentially allow Alexei Cavoro to now have a charge up to the back of the V-carb and potentially an attack within a few laps time. So it seems the driver struggling so far at the front of the field the most is Pajewski. He's really starting to understeer in that V-carb and potentially just be struggling with the wear of those tyres and how the dirty air makes the car behave.
Yeah, I think it was the Williams there of Thomas Lang on the Hanger straight. We saw him pull off, taking a different line to the DRS train. Is that the first signs then of the engine temperatures getting a little bit too high? Those guys pulling out of the slipstream just to try cool their engine down to obviously maximise their straight line speed and power.
Yes, they certainly do. You need to maximise that power, especially around a circuit like Silverstone where straight line speed is oh so dear. That's why you may see at times drivers just ducking out of the slipstream, keeping their engines nice and cool, just give them the best engine output as they possibly can. And for the likes of Dimas, he won't have to do that. He's in that clean air anyway, so his engine will be keeping quite nice and cold compared to his competitors. He'll have the best straight line speed and also the best power down out of the corners. And for the likes of Galene and even Carlos behind, they could just be struggling ever so slightly with their engine temps. Now it's about to start lap 8 of 26. And actually, we already see a driver into the pit lane. That's Carlos Galeno from third place on the road. We have our first driver to bite. Same with Pajewski and Simeone as well. They're going for the undercut here, Ben. But with the amount of drivers that have stayed out with that DRS, is this going to be either costly or is this going to be a masterclass on the strategy front?
Well, it's more than half the grid, is it? That's boxed.
Oh,
That
it's
is,
off the grid.
that is surely, that seems to me a bit too early, but you know. Is it the 2-stop or are we just going as to the end? I'm not sure. Lap 8 out of 26, surely that's too early.
I think they could potentially take those to an end, but it will be a very big push. So we could see a 2-stop strategy coming out to play here. If this was the reverse layout of Silverstone, a 2-stop is definitely what you would want to be doing. But here now in the forwards layout, it is Galendo who's got quite a big lead over Simeone, and Pajewski's actually fallen behind the Aston Martin and all of this too. Don't know if he got held ever so slightly by someone, but unfortunately he's dropped down to 10th place and over 3 seconds back from Carlos Galendo. So for the Alpine, he's kind of a lone soldier at this rate here, Ben, and that could cost him dearly, especially down straights like this, up through Woodcote and the National Pit Straight, where he's now potentially under threat of losing dear time, especially to his teammate Paul Aldofs.
Absolutely. Now, I initially thought it was too early, but if these guys all are in the DRS, then of course they can work together and eliminate a little bit of that tie where you see Alexander coming into the pit lane along with pretty much everybody else so far. I think Giovanni is the only one to stay out in the Mercedes, along with Alessandro Finn, I believe that is. But yeah, we might see a move here with Igor in P10 as he chases down the back of Sammy Simeone. But all drivers starting to pit now, and they'll probably be able to take these tyres to the end.
Yes, I think they certainly will be, and let's crucially see where Galendo comes out in relation to these drivers now trundling down the pit lane. And Aldolfs has actually been able to overtake Jeremy Gallinet as well. So Gallinet has dropped the place in the pit lane, but here comes Galendo around the outside of everybody, and he does undercut Jeremy Gallinet in all of this. And he's now in the driver's seat to be attacking Alexander Dimas. So the two championship leaders, first and second in the standings, will be neck and neck on the road. And for Alexander Dimas, he might have his mirrors full of Alpine by the time we get out of Brooklands, because of course the Alpine will have those warmer tyres. They will be in their optimum working window at this stage. You can see how much more confidence Carlos has under braking compared to the Red Bull.
Absolutely, and I'm just looking a bit further behind Oleski and Sammy Simeone as well. There's a bit of a send from Igor in the background there. You could see the driver's hand fly up. That means there was a bit of contact there between the two, the V-Carb and the Ferrari, battling hard for position here as they know how crucial that move can be. As Oleski runs out wide through Copse, is that going to be one of his 3 allowed warnings before a penalty could come his way potentially? But I feel like this is not going to be the end of this, and down the hanger straight, are we going to see a few more moves, Sam? Max, not Sam, sorry.
I think we might see some as Jeremy Gallinet is going to be under pressure from Simeone with that DRS now up into Stowe corner. Is the Aston Martin going to pull to that inside line? No, he's just sitting behind, but these guys need to get a move on because they're over 2 seconds back from Paul Aldofs. And also in all of this as well, as there's a move further back from Pajewski, looking for it on Cavoro. Wasn't able to get the move done this time around. But they need to, I think these drivers here, Ben, need to stop focusing on the squabbling, just save it for a little bit later down the line, because they need to make some inroads, not only on the first Alpine of Paul Aldofs, but also on Carlos Galendo and Dimas out in front, who are starting to streak clear from this chasing pack behind.
Absolutely, and I think it was because I was riding on board with Sammy Simeone that I called you Sam there, so apologies for that, Max. But Abdullah is in P11, he's closing in to the back of Thomas Lang there in this train. Bit of an offset line as well for Thomas Lang, maybe a defensive line, but Carlos couldn't quite make the move either on the Wellington straight. Is he going to be able to overtake Alexander on the hanger straight? Still 2 cars yet to box in this race, 15 seconds behind though in P3.
Down in net P4. Oh, that was someone really wide actually in the background through Copse. I think that was Pajewski, who's now really starting to drop off the back of the Ferrari. He's really struggling in this dirty air, and oh, Giovanni Galato is unfortunately
deep again, Thomas Lang.
10-second time penalty, and Pajewski deep again, and that's actually Thomas Lang going deep once more too, and that's going to be Abdullah Bulak going up into the top 10, and this side by side still nearly contact between the pair. A little bit of understeer from Abdullah really could have cost them both dearly, but for Thomas Lang, he has to sit behind, and that unfortunate run out of Beckett's has allowed the V-Carb up into 10th place. A disappointing outing so far for the two V-Carbs, 10th and 9th, and for Igor Pajewski, who's battling for this championship, being that low down the order can certainly hurt him a lot.
Absolutely, Giovanni as well with that 10-second time penalty comes out in P8, so he's still in this lead train. But how costly is that 10-second time penalty going to be towards the end of this race? He's probably going to drop to the back of this pack.
Yeah, I think he certainly will. That 10-second time penalty is not going to help him one bit. Unfortunately, that's the thing with the Silverstone pit lane. It's such a big slowdown in reducing speed, isn't it, Ben, where it just kind of eggs you to go further into the braking zone and, of course, brake as late as you dare. And, of course, being slower than most of the circuit's pit lane, most of the calendar's pit lanes, you kind of get caught out by that. So for Giovanni, I think he just got a little bit too bold, a little bit too brave, unfortunately sped into the pit lane.
Yeah, Jarno absolutely nailed it yesterday. Got every single metre correct on that braking zone, and obviously winning the race by, what was it, 8 thousandths? And of course, just a reminder to these drivers towards the end of this race, that is now banned. So do not think of trying that yourself.
Yeah, if you try that yourself, you will be penalised. I don't know what the exact penalty would be, but I know if you do get the win thanks to that, it will certainly not stand. So do not try it. Even if you are someone who's battling for the championship, do not do it, because that could cost you dearly in your fight for this F4 title. So as we see everybody now heading in to the first few corners, actually Paul Adolphs has been able to catch up to the back of his teammate Galendo as Thomas Laminen is now past Thomas Lang, so the Williams starting to fall backwards throughout this race. Unfortunate for Thomas Lang, who was up in 9th a little bit earlier on, now down to 12th. And I think he was a little bit unhappy there with Laminen. Potentially some contact made between the pair, had a little shake of frustration. But it shows you can be caught even with DRS, as the two Alpines are now the ones hunting down Alexander Dimas.
Absolutely, you've got to be on your toes all the time, and those drivers on the toes are in P2, P3 and P4 at the minute. Broke away, of course, from the second sort of train. Alessandro Finn yet to pit in this race. Is this the lap that he's going to come into the pit lane, or is he going to keep going? He is on the hards, remember, of course, so he is going to stay on a few laps longer until those mediums will be able to go till the end. What lap are we expecting him to be in? Lap 17, 18 maybe?
Yeah, I would presume around then, and that would show that even the drivers that boxed on lap 8 are going to have that little bit of a push. I think Giovanni, even though unfortunately with that 10-second penalty, if he didn't have that, he would have been in a really good position come the end of this race here. Benny will be on such fresher tyres compared to the rest of the field. He'll be nursing tyres that could potentially puncture come the end of it, and he would be able to fly up throughout this field. But unfortunately with that 10 seconds, it does kind of stunt his progress, potentially dropping out of points altogether. But like Imola, we could see more punctures along the way. We're going to have to wait and see. But the drivers that boxed a little bit earlier, that tried the undercut originally, could be in a little spot of bother come the end of this race.
Yeah, it was absolutely mental last week in Imola in F4. If you haven't seen it, definitely make sure you go watch back the stream. Nathan's mic wasn't the greatest though on the final lap, so apologies for that. I'm sure he's got it fixed for this week or the weeks after, of course. But yeah, everyone it just seemed to open up like Moses for Sammy Simeone, and he claimed that race win in Imola. I'm not sure five people ahead of him this week are gonna puncture. Let's just say that, but Sammy Simeone as well. What does he want out of this race? I think probably 5th now is the maximum that he's going to get. Do you reckon?
Yeah, potentially. I don't know. It depends if Galinay and also Simeone are able to now potentially pull up to the back of the top 3. Of course, Adolphs was able to catch up to the back of his teammate who had that DRS over Dimas. It just shows how strong his pace was. And if Galinay or Simeone can repeat that feat, we could have a huge scrap for this race victory. Of course, all the way down to 10th from Jeremy Galinay is within DRS range of each other. And of course, the top 3 have just broken away ever so slightly. Alessandro Finn, of course, staying out. He's the only driver on the alternate strategy, and I think that has cost him dearly. He will have those mediums come the end of this race here, Ben. But unfortunately for the Red Bull, I think he'll just be too far off the back of the field that once he does catch up, he won't really have any tyre left to really use.
Yeah, absolutely. I forgot he was yet to box. So P4 probably the maximum for Sammy Simeone out of this race, which would be another good result, to be fair. And what's that? 1, 2, 3, 8 points. 8 points if you get P4 in PSGL, 16 points for a win. And I feel like we're going to have a move here with Sammy Simeone. He's actually run wide again. And what that means he's going to have a better run probably through Maggots and Beckett's here and onto the hanger straight.
Yes, he certainly will. DRS open for Cavora and also Sammy Simeone as well. Is Simeone going to try go for the attack as the best form of defence as Finn is finally into pit lane a little bit earlier than we probably would have expected. But no, Simeone, Cavora all staying behind. Lang and Laminen now going side by side into Stowe as well. Lang able to get that move back done on his FVR compatriot. And as they head into the Vale chicane, Laminen a real big rear locking moment there. That would have been very hairy and scary indeed inside the cockpit. Wouldn't be surprised if he needs a new change of underpants after that one, because he got on the grass and the rear just let go. That could have seen him round.
Absolutely. Now, dead last for Alessandro Finn, but he's going to be on the fresher tyres, so he's going to have to work his way back through this field if he wants to pick up any sort of points paying positions here today. But who shall we ride on board with next? Abdullah, probably the closest guy to anyone else on track. Sammy Simeone, of course, further up as well. Let's ride on board with him, as Jeremy does not have the DRS ahead, so in reality it should be a pretty easy move in the DRS.
It should, but he's been really stuck behind the Haas at this stage of the race. He's been stuck behind him ever since he came out the pit lane. And unfortunately for Sammy Simeone, he's just not really been able to break down that defence, crack the code, and get by the Haas driver of Galinay. Of course, Galinay started on the front row of the grid, now down to 4th. I'll be looking to try and close that gap down to the 3 in front of him. The trio that are starting to slowly cement themselves as the drivers you expect to be fighting for this race win come the end of this. But into the Stowe right-hander and into the Vale chicane. Once again, Simeone not close enough. I think the dirty air, especially through that high speed of Maggots and Beckett's here, Ben, is just really costing these guys dearly and not giving them the opportunity down the hanger straight to get that move done.
Absolutely, and in Stowe as well, I've seen a couple of people run out wide there, so is that also the case just after a high-speed section? But not really this, well, I suppose we've seen Sammy Simeone go wide in Cops as well, so yeah, probably is that dirty air coming into effect there as Carlos. I think this is the closest he's been to Alexander so far, the championship leader, and he's using a bit of battery just to stay well within, and this is definitely the closest he's been. Is he lining up a move now on the hanger straight? Hopefully not into Cops, as we know how that ends up. Just look up Silverson 2021. But yeah, onto the hanger straight, that's probably his best chance for a move here.
Yeah, it certainly could be, and also don't search up Breaking Point 3 either. Spoilers ahead if you haven't played it yet, but the game being out for so long, I'm sure most of everybody has at some point. But for Carlos Galendo, as he heads now through the right-hander of Chapel, he's really in a good position against Alexander Dimas to potentially now pose a threat and go for this lead of the race, should I say, as we head up into Stowe. Once again, not getting close enough. That DRS is just not seeming powerful enough down the hanger straight or even the Wellington straight at the moment. That he actually, I think, lost time in all of that. So is Dimas running potentially a lower downforce setup, which is giving him the run out of, well, down the hanger straight and the Wellington straight too. But of course, slows him down through the likes of Brooklands and Luffield. So for Dimas, I think he might have got the setup at the sweet spot just to keep the DRS at bay. Absolutely,
and that is why he is the championship leader, of course. He's got the setup dialed in at the moment. Giovanni as well in the Mercedes, closing on Alessi Cavero. 1.8 is the second, so they've gained a little bit to the front 3, and Alessandro Finn as well towards the rear. You can see actually Alessi pulling out of that slipstream, trying to cool the engine down, but back to Alessandro Finn at the bottom. 1.8 seconds is the gap. Keep an eye on that one, because he will be closing back to the rear of this train and making moves.
Yes, he certainly will. He's brought that gap down in the past 2 laps by 2 seconds, about a second a lap faster than the cars in front of him. So he should be able to carve his way into that top 10 quite nicely. But the question is, will he have enough tyres to catch up to the likes of Abdullah Bulak, Igor Pajewski and Giovanni Galotto as well? So for Carlos, once again, heading down that hanger straight gains about 0.2 of a second against Alexander Dimas, maybe a little bit more. So if he wants to go for that move, he needs to be within 2.5 to potentially 0.3 behind Alexander Dimas. But I mean, of course, it's all well and good us talking about Galindo going for this move now. But come the end of the race, if he's still in that race lead, it could shoot himself in the foot here, Ben. So it's certainly just going to be a game of patience at the front of the field for Galindo. We'll just want to try and make that move on that final lap.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if it's just me, but I think if we had a few more laps in this race, then we might have saw some rain, because I think it is getting a bit greyer out there. Are we going to see a bit by the end of this race? There's not many laps to go, and I can still see quite a few blue skies, so I don't think we will. But yeah, I feel like it is pretty a bit more grey than it was at the start of the race.
Yeah, I have noticed those clouds rolling in over this circuit as Alessandro Finis made his first victim, that being Damien Curiel into Brooklands. Nicely done with the DRS, it seemed, into the left-hander, and is now starting to make his way up through the order. But yeah, certainly getting a lot more overcast here in Silverstone. We could potentially see some rain hit the circuit within the last few laps, and look how close Galindo is as well here, Ben. He's 3.5 tenths back by the time we exit out of Chapel. He's using that battery, he's got the DRS open as they head down the hangar straight. Is he close enough? No, once again, just not able to find the time he needs over Alexander Dimas. It's just not close enough for that move. So he's really just got to be careful trying to set this one up. And look how much he gained under braking there into Vale. He's certainly better on the brakes, is Carlos. But with Dimas being faster down the straights, it kind of negates that issue.
Yeah, and you can see he had to drop back about 0.5 tenth as well, just in that dirty air, which you can see how powerful it is. So ideally for Carlos, I'm sure his temperatures will be running pretty high. Is he going to send a move up into the loop? Not quite. But there's another DRS range and detection zone here, so let's have a look if he makes the move here or if he's just going to recharge. He is using that battery, so max over 2 for this one.
Yes, here we go then. Carlos looking for that move into Brooklands, does make a nose to the inside line. There's just about a car's width left there from Alexander Dimas. There was some contact, and look at this for an up and under. There's contact with a good old bump and run from Carlos Galindo. Alexander Dimas with a little slide through Lovefield thanks to that contact, but the Alpine now hits the front of the field. Dimas has finally been displaced at the front, and also here comes Galindo's teammates of Adolphs as they head into Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel for the 19th time in this race. He's been threatening for that move, has Carlos, all race long, heading through, well, in this second stint, should I say. He's got closer and closer as the laps tick by. Finally had got that opportunity, but Dimas is now looking to the inside into Stowe, did fret the nose up the inside line, showing his intention, but just wasn't close enough to get that move done. As we head now into Vale, Carlos finally leads this British Grand Prix, but it's going to be very hardly fought by the Red Bull of Dimas, who has a bigger battery advantage over that Alpine, so we could see the move back down into Brooklands this time around.
Absolutely. Now Dimas is going to have the luxury of that dirty air that he hasn't had for this entire race, so let's see how he handles with that. Of course, I'm sure that will affect his tyre wear a little bit more as well. Carlos has an opportunity now to cool the engines, which means the roles are reversed. Can he keep Alexander behind for the remainder of this race? But here comes Alexander again, Max.
Comes then to the inside line. This one was a lot more committed from the Red Bull, and surely this time there's more contact here actually between the pair, the two championship protagonists, the two leading the way at the front of this championship, fighting tooth and nail for this race victory with now 7 laps to go here at Silverstone. And look what all this squabbling has done. It's invited Galinay, it's invited Sammy Simeone as well, with Galindo going a little bit wide through Cops. That's actually put his teammate Adolphs all over the back of him too, but I wouldn't expect Adolphs to go for this move at this stage of the race. But knowing here in PSGL, it's every man for himself. Every man wants their shots at the title and a race victory, but everything stays as it once was. But this squabbling really has invited that chasing pack here, and we have a total of 9 cars all in this train for the race lead.
Absolutely. Aveski as well on the hangar straight. Oleski, sorry, still pulling out to that opposite line to the DRS train. Is he just keeping his temperatures cool as he knows we'll be following close in the final few laps? Is he preparing himself for a last lap move? on Sammy Simeone for P5 or even more in this race. Giovanni, it's such a shame he got that 10-second time penalty as well. He's running in that lead train, but he's going to get knocked all the way down to last place.
Yeah, unfortunate there for Giovanni. There's been a spin further back, I think, for Giovanni Lanzoni. So he's now going all the way across the grass, and he's got a 10-second time penalty himself. I think that could be removed. I don't know if there was contact with Damien Curiel there. He's actually giving the place back to Curiel. Mark got an illegal overtake on him. Unfortunate for the kick Sauber, but the thing is, if these guys keep squabbling, this will allow the likes of Thomas Lang to potentially try and catch up to this train as well. Same with Thomas Laminen too. And that then puts into play Alessandro Finn, if he's able to keep those tyres in good nick. But I just think they've dropped that little bit too far back of Laminen and Lang. They're not going to be really in this picture. They'll need a monstrous squabble at the front of this field to do so. But never say never. Anything can happen here in PSGL. But that gap at the front of the field has really extended. I think Carlos is now just recharging the battery and just trying to sit in that DRS to have another attack within a few laps' time.
Yeah, absolutely. That gap extended at the front to around nearly 9/10, I think. It is Alexander turning up the pace a little bit here in these final couple of laps to try and bolt away. We've seen it so often as well in such competitive, as I think Giovanni Lanzoni is retiring from the race. Damien as well pulls it into the pit lane, but we've seen it so often, the leader bolting out of that DRS just unexpectedly. P2 not expecting it at all, and of course loses that DRS range. And once that DRS is gone, they could just gain lap on lap a few attempts and then end up winning the race by a couple seconds.
Yeah, they certainly can. As a yellow flag in sector 3, that's for Damien Curiel with that unfortunate retirement, and then zoning into the pit lane for a set of the softs. He's going for the fastest lap of this race, as we now see Jeremy Gallinet potentially falling out of the DRS of Paul Adolphs, heading through Copse Corner now. He's just able to bring that gap down a little bit more. The DRS detection point will be in the middle of Beckett's. Is he just going to be enough? Yes, he's just got within that DRS range, so we still have this train connected. But Dimas has really started to extend that gap at the front of the field. He just seems to have such superior tyres and potentially grip at the moment that Carlos has no answer, and he's not really been able to save the battery either. As Carlos, I'm looking at his dash, it's around about 20% he's got left in the tank compared to Dimas's around about 30 to 40 range. So Dimas has the upper hand, not only on tyre life, but also on battery too.
Absolutely, he's played it so well. He's reversed the roles early on in the race, and he has now won that strategy over the cars behind, because of course it's so difficult to overtake. And let's see if Dimas can round out these final 3 laps, not including this one, and take that race win. Of course, would massively help his championship. Not a great result in Imola, P8 only for him, and yeah, bouncing back and extend his championship lead over Galindo, who is right behind him. So it's still all to play for, though, isn't it, Max? So a lot of racing still to go, and I'm sure it'll get heated in the final couple of laps.
Oh, there certainly is still 3.5 laps, should I say, left here at Silverstone. If it stays as it currently is, Dimas will have a 7-point lead over Carlos Galindo. Of course, getting that point for pole position and now taking that race victory as well. There's 4 points between first and second in terms of points. 16 points for Dimas as it currently stands to Galindo's 12. And with that extra lap point for the pole position, it will be 17 overall for Dimas. So, except from the fastest lap, picking up maximum points when it comes to leading each session. And look how far back Gallinet has dropped to Adolphs in front. It just shows how fast that top 3 is here, Ben.
Absolutely, he's dropped out, so it is a 3-horse fight then for the win of this race. Those guys behind fighting for maximum P4, it's looking like, unless they can gain back within that DRS, but they'll probably be pushing that hard to gain the DRS that they might use up all the tyres that they were going to save for fighting for positions towards the end. Sammy Simeone is looking like he's going to go for that move pretty soon, though, 3 attempts behind.
Yeah, certainly is. He's got to be careful, though. If he does go for that move on Gallinet, he's not caught out and potentially misses out on that opportunity to then let Cavoro through. So the Ferrari could be looking to pick up as many scraps as possible and break into that top 5. So as we head through the right-hander of Luffield, I think that's Giovanni Lanzoni having a spin out of the final corner, so just going from bad to worse for this kick Sauber. That gap at the front of the field still extending. It's now 9/10 of a second. Are we actually going to see the DRS broken? No. Unfortunately for Dimas, we see Galendo just break back in within the, well, 1 second region. He's just able to hang on to that DRS, but he is certainly pushing, and that gap could certainly be 1 second by the time we reach the exit of Club Corner.
Absolutely. Just a quick refresher on tyres as well. Tyre Rage. Alexander is 1 lap fresher tyres. There we go. 4P4. Jeremy is going for a move on Sammy Simeone. Is he going to do it into the braking zone? No, he tried it in Stowe, but can't quite make the move done. But Alexander, 1 lap fresher tyres than Carlos. And towards the end of this race, we're on the penultimate lap now. That could be crucial.
That certainly could be crucial for Sammy Simeone as well. Now that move on Jeremy Gallinet, he's moved himself up into 4th place, and with Gallinet's pace, it's really just gone to absolutely nowhere since the opening phase of this race, should I say. It's just not really had it on these hards. The balance of the car, of course, does change slightly, and he has not gelled with it at all. But Simeone finally able to break into that top 4, but he will still have the hard charging hat of Jeremy Gallinet fighting this one back. So we're on the penultimate tour of this Silverstone circuit, and at the front of the field, Dimas still holding Galeno back at an arm's reach, but anything can happen as Lanzoni at the back. His day goes even worse. When it rains, it certainly does pour for Giovanni Lanzoni. He's now picked a 3-second time penalty to boot as well. For Dimas at the front of the field, it's looking more and more likely he will win this race, but a last lap charge from Galeno could certainly stop that in its tracks.
Absolutely. Strange line from Sammy Simeone. Maybe he was trying to potentially let Jeremy go through, but he's played it nicely. He's lifted off a little bit, and that's allowed him to stay behind for the final lap. And he needs a good run here. And of course, he needs to not be caught out by Alessi, who's pushing for a move. Tried the inside, but was covered off nicely from Jeremy. Maybe a little bit late, so we'll have to see what the stewards think about that one if it is reported. But still, 1 lap of racing action to go. Oh, huge slide as well from Alessi around the final corner. Is that going to put him at a disadvantage to Giovanni? But Max, it's been a thriller so far, but it's over to you for the final lap as Alexander is trying to defend his place on the top step so far.
Of course, Dimas is staring at the feat of being the first double winner this season. And any of this well, of course, Galendo and Adolphs for Alpine haven't won a race so far this season. So for Dimas, he'll be the first driver to do the double if he's able to hold on, and he does have that superior tyre and battery advantage. Further back, Gallinage still trying to do everything he can against Sammy Simeone on this final tour of the circuit. We head up into Copse Corner. Is Gallinet going to risk it? Is he going to go for it? I don't think it's going to be a move between the top two, because look at that gap for Alexander Dimas.
Oh.
It's nearly a second. It is a second. Oh, it just flicks over. No, it is now a second between Dimas and Galendo. It just flicks over a second before the DRS detection point, and he doesn't have DRS. He could come under pressure here from his teammate of Adolphs. So this battle for second might not be said and done yet. The two Alpines going to be in a squabble of their own. To the outside goes Adolphs. This will not do Galendo's championship charge any sort of good. There's contact between the two Alpines, but at the front of the field, Alexander Dimas, the delightful Dutchman, is going to be the first driver to do 2 wins this season. Here in round 5, it's the Dutch double for Alexander Dimas, who wins out here in Silverstone. Galendo was just able to hold on to second place, with Sammy Simeone in 4th, just behind Adolphs. Then we have Jeremy Gallinet, Alexei Kavoro, Pajewski, Abdullah Bulak, Thomas Lang, and Alessandro Finn, who did recover to get a point thanks to Giovanni's penalty. But that was a frantic final lap. And for Carlos Galendo and Paul Adolphs, I don't know if the two Alpines might report each other there, because there was some contact up at Stowe. Really hard racing between the pair, but I'm surprised Adolphs went for that at all, knowing his teammates in that championship battle here, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. But Alexander Dimas, fantastic race from him. Extends his championship lead over Carlos Galendo as well. Igor as well. Only P7 could manage today. That's an improvement from last week where he finished P12. But unfortunately for him, it's not the way he would have wanted his race to go, with the championship leader winning the race and extending his margin along with P2 as well.
Yeah, that's certainly Not what Galendo would have wanted. That's now a 5-point swing over Galendo for Dimas. So he now leads this championship by 7 points overall. And for the Red Bull driver, the Dutchman becomes the first driver to do 2 race victories this season. One at Austria in the opening round, and here in round 5 at Silverstone. A brilliant drive from Alexander Dimas indeed. He never, except from that one moment where Galendo got through, he never looked too much in trouble. And even then, he was very calm, very calculated, just used his advantage perfectly. But your finishing order is as follows. Of course, it's provisional before Stewart's inquiries. It's Dimas from Galendo, the 2 championship leaders. It's 1-2 in the race. Aldof's in third. That's good for his championship, actually. That might promote him up into 3rd place overall. Then we have Sami Simeone, Galanay, Cavoro, Pajeshki, Abdullah Bulak, Thomas Lang, and Alessandro Finn rounding out your top 10. Everybody outside the top 10 is Lamanen, Korsman, Giovanni Gatto. Then you also have Tias Korsman, Lanzoni, and Damien Curiel, a lone DNF of this race. The reigning F4 champion not having a fun time of things at the start of the season, and that could potentially drop him a little bit further down the order. But that was a very good race indeed here, Ben. Who is your driver of the day?
I think it has to be Alexander Dimas. He played it absolutely perfectly. Going back and forth, first stint as well following, and then second stint doing the exact same, the opposite way around, and ultimately extending his championship lead. Now, are you happy to cut back to the cameras just to round out this stream, Max?
Yeah, let's head back to the commentary box so everyone can see our glorious faces once more. I don't think we are going to get any driver interviews as it currently stands. No one seeming to be in the waiting room, so that could be it for now. Just to quickly run you through the rest of your season. Of course, it will usually be me and Myth Sky, but I've had the lovely Ben Huskins alongside me this evening. Been a pleasure to have you, Ben. But the race calendar is as follows for the rest of the season. Next week, we hit the halfway stage, Hungary. Round 6, followed by a trip to the Middle East to Bahrain. Then we have a 1-week break on the 28th of August before we come back for the final stretch, the final 5 rounds of the season. We go to Texas, Japan, Vegas, Brazil, and Mexico to round off this season. It should be a very frantic one indeed. And of the remaining races here, Ben, which one is your favourite?
Well, I've got to say Brazil. I absolutely love Brazil. Bahrain as well is a fun one. Not a big fan of Mexico, having that as the final round as well. I'm sure it's good to commentate, but to drive on, not my favourite, to be honest. But yeah, Japan's always a thriller as well. But yeah, definitely I'd go with Brazil.
Yeah, Brazil, I mean, I'm surprised it's not the finale and Brazil and Mexico are swapped, but still, Brazil, a very frantic circuit. We could potentially see that championship decided in that race. Of course, you'll have to stick throughout the rest of the season to look at, to watch this championship unfold. But I don't think we are going to get any interviews. So, Ben, is there any last words from you before we end off?
No, just a thank you to, well, PSGL. Connor as well for bringing him in the commentary box. Big shout to Nathan who made that happen as well, actually. And yeah, this OBS pack is very, very nice to work with. Very, very easy to set up as well. So yeah, thank you to you as well, Max, for jumping in the commentary. But that's all from me, and I look forward to next week if I am doing F4 again.
Yeah, let's maybe wait and see, or potentially it could be higher. We don't know, Ben.
Hopefully.
We shall see your face around anyway, one of the tiers in the remainder of this season. But I think that is going to be all, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all very, very much for watching. Of course, this would not be possible without your guys' support from home. We would not be able to bring you these streams, and the drivers will not be able to showcase their talent as much as they do now. But we'll be back at 8 PM UK time next week for a trip to the Hungaroring in the Budapest. We'll see what will happen there. Will Dimas be able to extend that championship lead? Can he make it 3 race wins in the season? Or will we have a new winner or a familiar face return to the top step once again? Make sure you stick around and find out. This championship is certainly getting nice and spicy. So we'll see you in the next one. Thank you all very much for watching, and goodbye.
Thank you.